All right, so we have a few updates today. We've got a nice little emissive um, grid behind the object. And then you can also see we have axis. So I can turn the axis off and on. And I can turn the boundaries off and on. With the lit up box, you can tell that the model seems a bit darker, and you can turn on the emissive to make it, I guess, like a full bright, so the model itself is not affected by light. Actually, I think it is. Ambient light can make it brighter, but if there's no light at all on the scene, the model is still bright. So if I turn off the emissive, all of a sudden it has no light. So we can turn on some ambient light and then turn on our directional light. There we go. Other things that I worked on, the knobs in NURBS modeling. I got this mostly working. It's still a bit wonky. So if I turn off the model and turn on the NURBS model, so it looks like a UFO, but you can see down here at the bottom there's a little bit of problems with the seams, and I can now control the degrees. And you're not really going to see the effect of this until, let's go to a front view, and I want to load up my cube. So my cube takes up most of the space here. You can tell the corners are a bit curved. If I take off the degrees, all of a sudden they're not. Let's zoom in on that curve. And we're going to increase the degrees. So you can see that's there's a whole curve. I'm looking at a pretty bad corner to begin with, because that's the corner that tucks in to itself. With the higher degrees, the texture seems to split out on the beginning and end of the model. So if I reduce it down to 1, the texture looks normal. So it's just a constantly trying to figure out what's going on with NURBS. But in the meantime, I have my meshes, or my regular models. And then the other thing is this reference cube, I made it a little bit transparent so that you could get a better idea of if your object is outside of the cube. And I'll show you in a second what's going on with that. Do I want the boundaries? Yeah, I want the boundaries. Okay, so now you can see I can actually move the model. I can even click these and kind of move it around. I can rotate the model, and you can kind of see it's coming out of its bounding box there. That's not ideal. You can see the rotation down here is updated as I spin it around. And then I can scale the model. So these are like basic 3D controls that were included in the Three.js library that I was able to hook into. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I can't really think of much else that I did today. A lot of bug fixes. A lot of research. Dig into other examples on the Three.js website. and then a lot of just a lot of research on the internet trying to figure out what to do, especially with the whole NURBS thing. NURBS also now works with these objects here. And let me get rid of my reference cube in my boundaries. So this was a problem just trying to get to work with NURBS. Let me get rid of that. Oh, and NURBS is not on. Here we go. Now it's a NURBS model. I was switching between rows and columns. Wasn't ideal. Oh, and I also fixed how how clicking on the images works out for images that are not 64 by 64 pixels wide. So I had a bit of a translation problem between where I clicked on the mouse and where the actual pixel was in on the original image. Yeah, that's about it. There's nothing else going on here. Oh, the ISO is now in view. So if I do this, click top ISO, that's perfectly in perspective. You can tell the top and bottom of the cubes are in on the edges of the view. So before, I think it was like this by default, something like that. Yeah. Well, that's it.